But take off my mic. No, I'm still on Zoom. Okay, got it.
Can I get a verification that YouTube has
I can't
audio
hear
now?
Julie now.
Like,
Oh,
we
you're
should just
muted,
keep talking, and our stream should know.
Okay, I'll be listening for that.
So many things.
It's like a game of cat and mouse.
Oh, I still can't hear
audio?
you. That's weird.
Who, me?
I can hear Julie.
Oh,
Yeah, I can hear Julie, and StreamYard can hear us. So we should have audio on YouTube. I'm getting levels on.
Oh, man.
hey, can I ask right away? My
Discord
screen share is
mode.
disabled to show the polls and stuff. So
I'm wondering if you
Um,
permission?
actually,
now I'm talking
Julie,
to
I
on
have.
Discord.
I'm
wonder if doing
gonna
that
send
knocked
that
out
in
my-
the. You see
sound for some
You see the
reason.
thing on StreamYard there, or you see the thing in Zoom? I actually probably should be sending that into
Maybe I
StreamYard.
should do that with this.
Karen, you got to mute one. You can't have both on for my head, please.
Yeah, we can stay muted in Discord for right now until we go live, and then all of our production team comms go backstage. But for right now, if we need to just use.
Do we have YouTube audio yet?
I don't hear it coming through, Ben.
Yeah, I have no audio from Zoom now.
Oh,
I'm still getting levels on. I'm getting levels coming into StreamYard, which is what it should be. So
Karen, I can hear you on
it
Zoom.
would be mute. Hold on. Okay, all right. So this isn't using the mixer. So this is.
all right, I got you.
Okay,
I've got
I
you
have
coming through
too, so
somewhere.
This is good. All right.
All right,
Now I'm
yes.
not seeing. Oh, I am. Okay. All right. So
Yes.
is this in YouTube? Because I want to not touch this ever again. If We got it. YouTube is up.
All
That's
right, sorry.
That's a 10-4. We got YouTube up.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
What I'd like to do, can we have everybody go backstage? But Trevor, I want,
I've lost everybody on Zoom. Oh, everybody's
We just
in.
muted. We just
Yeah.
muted, Ben.
Okay, all right, no problem. Let me get on Discord. I just want to verify that we have YouTube.
might I make a recommendation? Let's get everybody into the Slido backstage audio channel for right now. We're going to all stay muted in Zoom with the exception of Trevor. Trevor should be the only open mic in Zoom. And everyone else is going to
Can you read
stay
us the
muted.
Constitution, Trevor, because I need to maintain these audio.
Sure. So I am unmuted.
Can you unmute in Zoom?
Yes, I am unmuted in Zoom.
You're
I
not
am
coming
muted.
through in Zoom.
You don't have me in Zoom?
We do. I have him on Zoom, Ben.
Yeah, my mic levels say that I'm sending into Zoom anyway.
Yeah, we have him on Zoom and I have him in StreamYard also. Hold on a second. Give me a sec. Trevor, give me an audio check, please.
7, 6,
Yes,
I'm
that's
five,
verified.
I'm activating
Four.
Twitch.
3, 2,
Yep.
1. Beans, beans, beans.
Okay, Twitch is up.
All right. And so if people on Twitter are messaging me asking about when the URLs will show up where they can get like the Zoom links and stuff, that will be the Eventbrite. Is that right?
Ben, that's a great question. Is
think-
the Eventbrite populated with the Zoom link? Otherwise, if not, that needs to be distributed right now.
Okay, I got my headset on now.
Cool. Just a program note, it is my recommendation, Ben, that all of our comms go backstage right now, which would mean you would mute yourself in Zoom. I would mute myself in Zoom, and we would all, at least for right now, be in the Slido backstage channel.
Gotcha.
And Trevor, we're going to come back and forth to you just to kind of give you audio cues.
Yeah.
But for the time being, I think we should all just maintain one comm, and that's in the Slido audio backstage.
Sounds good. So I'll be keeping an eye on the Discord text channel, Slido QA text backstage. And then I will be on Zoom chatting with people, talking about what they want. And then when we have a moment, let's talk about how to call on people in Zoom. I know somebody is going to be, Steve, you're going to be the person who handles that, right? Unmuting people. And yeah, okay.
Hey, Trevor.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was on the Discord. So to answer your question there, because I'm hearing you coming through Zoom.
Right.
Everybody else is backstage. So Steve is running it. Could you explain to Steve how Stack works? Because I think that there's going to be people that are like you'll call upon and he'll ask them to unmute, but there will be a queue of people. So so if you can tell the audience to use Stack, then Steve can maintain the Stack and push it to the front.
Great. Steve, that works for you?
Yes. We may need to, here, let me, I've got 3 different audios going right now. So I'm going to come directly to you.
Okay.
Trevor, say that again with the Stack. I heard you guys talking about it.
Yeah. So in one of the OMI meetings, there was this pattern in Discord text chat. If you wanted to talk on the audio channel, you would just type into the text chat stack plus or stack. And then the moderator who was monitoring the text channel would just keep a running list. And then when the person who was running the meeting was ready for more people, they would just say, okay, you know, moderator, whoever, who's next on the list, let's invite somebody to unmute. And so that's just a way that we can sort of make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk if they want to talk, and it's in the order that they ask to talk. So we don't let over talkers sort of run the day.
Okay.
And then it doesn't look like, so one thing is I just opened up the Zoom chat and it says chat disabled.
Yes, we are not going to be using Zoom as a chat.
Gotcha.
We're going to try to direct all questions to Slido.
Gotcha.
That's our preference. And Julie and Karen are going to be working backstage to promote or insert questions through the moderation.
But then how will people add themselves to say that they want to be heard in the audio?
That's what we'll use Stack for. Through the
Discord. But what channel do they type?
Oh, I see. Actually, you know what? I think Trevor's got a good point, Steve. Let's re-enable the chat just for Stack. I think that actually might make so we don't have to force people into Discord out of Zoom to get called upon. Actually, yeah, let's just reserve chat for Stack or Zoom chat for Stack.
Well,
people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that people are going to be as obedient as we're expecting them to be.
Yeah. I'll take your best recommendation on how to manage that, but yeah, that can be a little. I was trying to have less things, but just to confirm, we do have audio on. We are streaming to Twitch with audio, and I'm going to tell Matt Cool to activate the stream.
Okay.
So Steve, if you're going to be mostly focused on the Zoom side of things, then I think opening up chat on Zoom is okay. And I'll just reiterate through the course of the meeting that we're not, that we're not really monitoring the chat for those
discussion.
Kinds of questions. Yeah. So all the discussion should go on Slido, but if you want to add yourself to the speaker queue, make a note in chat. And then if people get wild in there, I guess we'll just, you'll just have to sort of banhammer them or do whatever.
What's interesting, Ben, is that I can actually turn chat on to a host. Where did it go now? I had that feature just a minute ago. Chat.
Do you have the ability to make additional hosts? Because I previously thought you could have co-hosts with this account, and then I was having trouble with that. So
do me a favor. Can somebody attempt to do a chat now? And it should just come to me. Yes, it did. So right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Sweet. You can only go to the host. Okay.
It will only come to me.
Perfect.
That way,
excellent.
I can moderate that. All right.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what we need.
Okay. And then if anybody has questions, I can field them, and that's how we would stack, because I'll just have a running queue of who's next.
Okay,
Correct.
we got 22 minutes and all systems are go. Slido's up,
Okay.
cards are up, stream audio is up. Actually, not all systems. Matt Cool's Hub's World is still bringing the stream online, but he has a stream to bring online, and that's what matters.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize we were having, we had a 3D space as part of this.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we can we should social this out right now. Like if anybody has an extra few moments before the town hall starts, because the Zoom is all of a sudden going to start populating. We may even get some earlies.
Sure.
Eventbrite is up, and let me just check and make sure the Eventbrite is doing what it's supposed to do.
All right.
I would really like to share my screen, or, okay, so the top left corner where the Slido is showing, that's coming from, whose screen is that? So I don't have to share anything. I just have to populate which questions are
That's
going
right.
out.
You're controlling what appears on that screen.
I don't have to share. I'm glad.
What I'm missing right now, actually, the only thing that we're missing is that there's a stupid thing that OBS did that flips things. So I'm gonna see if I can like work something out with a screen share, or like I'm gonna, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring Slido in using my Mac into StreamYard because we already have it in Zoom. So, all right, I'll be right back.
I need to get a keyboard that makes less noise so that I can take notes.
Uh,
and
Now
yes.
I can hear. I can hear.
Yay.
Yes, you are Tappity Tim.
Let me stop this video. Oh, Steve's muted. Steve's talking on Discord, which I can't hear still. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, I think the goal is to get everybody except me on audio and Discord, and
Okay.
have not have mics open here.
Okay.
That is an
Yeah.
affirmative, Trevor.
Okay.
Karen,
Mhm.
are you able to do an audio comm? Can you hear any of us right now?
I can hear you on Zoom
Okay.
on one computer, but I can't hear anything on from Zoom or Discord on my other computer.
Okay.
Let me try to.
I'm going to mute myself, Julie, in Zoom.
I'm gonna sign out. Maybe I can sign out.
Oh,
I can't.
she doesn't need to be on two Zooms in here. And technically, and this was another question that I had, like Trevor's the only one that's front facing on this one. We're just all behind the scenes, right? So we should be
100%. Camera off.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll get out of Zoom on my other camera and just use this for voice.
Yeah.
And okay.
Bye, Trevor.
Hi, Julie. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the far side. Bye, Karen. See you on the far side.
Still here.
All right. So Karen, you still have an open mic. Your mic is muted in Discord. Karen.
Yes, but I can't. But that's the problem for me, is that I can't hear in Discord.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Can you try Discord on your phone?
Yes, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
That's why. Can you send me the invite to my other Karen XR account, please?
I believe that I did that.
Okay.
I'm gonna try again.
For the voice, oh yeah, here. Join, all right, here.
Cool. And,
Okay, enable.
and Ben, we've
Yeah.
got you back now in Zoom. If you could oblige us,
Hmm?
we should have no open mics in Zoom right now. All comms are backstage, except for Trevor.
Copy. I'm
that is-
shutting off my Mac.
Cool. Just so if you're here, well, he probably isn't hearing. Well, maybe you are hearing me. Yeah, okay. We are doing an audio, we're troubleshooting an audio comm with Karen, just so you're aware. I've got 16 minutes till show. What time are we going to open the doors? 3 till? Or is this meeting live? Okay. Ben, you're muted inside of your backstage Discord, so you have to open up that mic backstage. And I can relay to Trevor as needed. Or Trevor, if you want, you should be able to join. You are probably getting an echo because I've got 2 open mics right now. So I'm trying to coordinate 2 conversations and 2 platforms. Trevor, could you just quickly do a comm check for Ben?
Beans, 77 beans, 74 beans,
Affirmative. Thank you.
63 beans.
Ben, just to confirm, I'm coming at you now in Zoom. We are trying to do an audio test with you in Discord, and it's been unsuccessful. We've got you in Discord, Ben. Trevor and I are having a great conversation in Zoom.
Yes, we are. It's so great to check our levels and to know that our audio is coming through clearly. It's a delight.
So my camera is not, because my camera's not on, but now it's on. Okay, that works. Okay.
Yeah. Sweet.
Corey, welcome. We're just getting ready here. We're glad to have you.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Hey,
We
Corey.
can.
Yes, we hear you.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Yep, we're getting all the tech set up, trying our different StreamYard configurations that go out to Twitch and YouTube. And then once people start rolling in, we'll start getting organized and making sure everyone understands how this will run, assuming I understand how this will run.
Yeah, Trevor, as people are joining us in Zoom, we want to encourage whenever possible, as long as bandwidth holds up, to have our participants keep their cameras on.
Okay. Yep, I have a set of notes for sort of introductory stuff. And then Steve, can you, are you able to direct message everybody who is on Zoom? Like if you put the Slido URL in the Zoom chat, is it possible for everyone to see it?
Yeah, let me give that a shot. And we can also put it in the Discord channel.
Yep. I think there'll be a fair number of people who aren't on Discord though, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it looks like people are starting to roll in. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We will give it a few minutes until a little bit after the top of the hour so that, and then I'll describe how the day will run and the various tools that we're using to get people's attention. So just hang out. If you're comfortable, we're encouraging people to keep their camera on. It's nice to see people's faces, but also we understand if that's not, it's not in the cards for you for whatever reason. And yeah. Oh, we've got a Max Headroom clone. That's awesome. Ari, that is a great graphic.
Thanks.
Okay, people are starting to roll in. Great. We're going to give it a few more minutes before we actually jump into everything. Hello, see some cameras coming online. Hello, everyone. It's good to see your faces.
Hi, Trev.
Hello, hello. I don't know about you all, but I'm looking at a beautiful day here in Seattle. We actually have sunshine and blue skies, which, you know, Seattle, it's quite an event. People try to get outside as quickly as possible. If that's, whenever that happens in Seattle. Yeah, I think Karen actually has a word cloud for us over on a poll over on Slido. So I think Steve just shared in the chat a link to the Slido for this event. And I'll go over this a little bit more once more people have rolled in. But in the meantime, if you would like to jump on over, there's a word cloud, there's a poll. So yeah, so we'll be using Slido to sort of gather consensus questions and figure out what's important to people and that sort of thing. You can consider the poll that's there now a bit of an icebreaker, just to sort of get to people over to Slido and checking it out, getting used to it, because during the course of this conversation, we'll be using it, we'll be leaning on it quite a bit. Yeah. There's a question about where people are calling from. So I'll give it 3 more minutes. So at around three or 4 minutes past the top of the hour, we'll actually jump into how this call will work, but I'm glad to see people showing up. Michael, Corey, Yinch, Jason, Florian, Anil, Richard, Bertrand, Oren. Hello, hello. Welcome, David. I know that a lot of people have a lot of Zoom calls today. So this is the town hall discussion in preparation for the WebXR Developer Summit. So if you're expecting a different meeting, check your Zoom link, but welcome if you're in the right place. Glad to see you.
Cool. Good to see everyone.
Yep. And in the chat, there should be a link to Slido. And we will be using that extensively in the course of this call. So head over there if you get a moment. Just keep it up on a separate screen or separate window, and we'll use that to coordinate the questions and the discussion topics, both for today and for the WebXR Developer Summit. Looks like there's a word cloud. United States is dominating. It looks like we have people from all over the world. Excellent. Glad to see we're getting more than just one continent. That's excellent. Hello, Lisi. Welcome. Okay. In 1 more minute, we will dive in. Luckily, I have a little peach pear La Croix. So in case I get scratchy throat, I'll be okay. But I hope you all have your beverage of choice for this call.
Good looking out, Trevor.
Thank you, thank you. Steve just posted in the chat as well a Discord link. So there is a text chat going on in Discord. Let's go ahead and dive in. I think we have enough people to sort of get rolling, and I'll do occasional reminders of the format of the day as more people roll in. But so hello, welcome everyone. The goal for today is to prepare for the WebXR Developer Summit. And so we have a general problem with any one-day event like this that is a single track event, which is that there's only so much time on screen for people to discuss. And so today we would like, the reason we're holding this open forum is we want to gather together the topics that are most important to as many people as possible, and to sort of collectively agree on, you know, what we should talk about on the day of the summit, which are the voices that we should be hearing from, if there are people or categories of topics that we usually, you know, that you find are usually missed but are important for the immersive web. That's what this day is all about. And so the format of the day is that on this Zoom call, I will be having a series of conversations. And so Steve Lewis is moderating Zoom, and he will ask people to unmute. I think he, as the host, he will be able to prompt people to unmute. And we'll just have a series of sort of rolling voice conversations. And then we're also using Slido. So in the Twitch stream, and I think also linked in the Zoom chat, and hopefully also in Discord, there will be a link to a Slido, which is a tool for basically gathering questions. And then if you see someone who asked a question that you think is important, you can upvote them. And so that way, we sort of get a collective idea of which topics are most important. And so please do keep Slido up and help us cultivate that set of topics. And we'll use those after this call is ended. We'll go through and gather up the results of that, as well as anything that we collected from Discord, and use that to set the tone for the day of the summit. So the way it will work to become, if you want to have an audio conversation with me, is in chat right now, it's you can direct message the host, Steve, but you can't direct message everybody. If you want a general topics conversation, there's Steve, he's giving the double thumbs up. General topics can happen over on Discord, but the Zoom chat is basically for asking Steve to add you to the speakers queue. So if you would like to come on, and we'll have a discussion either about some of the topics that are happening in the Slido, or there's a topic that you think is not addressed anywhere, then add yourself to the speaker queue by direct messaging Steve in Zoom. So a simple add me to the queue, or I know that there's sort of a convention in Discord called Stack, where if you just type Stack into the text chat in Zoom here, then Steve will know that that is basically you asking to be in the speaker queue. And then, yeah, and then as the day rolls on, we'll have as many conversations as we can and gather as much information as we can, so that as we put together the speaker list and the session topics for the day of the summit, we'll actually have we'll have a good sense of how the community feels and what's interesting. So some examples, I think there are already some questions in Slido. And it looks like we have a word cloud going. We have learning topics for newbies, mobile, IK avatars, publishing platforms. Really great. Steve, if anybody is adding themselves to the queue, I think we're ready to start having those conversations. Go ahead and unmute people. And if you are unmuted, if you're invited to unmute and you unmute, please take a moment to introduce yourself with your name. And if you would like, the project that you work on that's associated with the immersive web. But and then, yeah, we'll just talk about the topics that are important to you. Some of the example questions for Slido that I was sort of thinking about earlier in the day is, what are the types of XR experiences that can only work on the web? So obviously there's a variety of platforms, some native, some web-based, and there are differences. So, spatial web browsers, immersive web browsers, you start off in flat mode. And then sometimes you have a camera that lets you see a portal into a virtual space, and then you can go full immersive. So that sort of responsive design and dynamic switching between display modes is somewhat unique to the web. So that's an example of what that topic would be about. Another topic is how, I know one of the things that I personally want to see for the immersive web going forward is, sort of how do we encourage web first development of tools? So in other platforms, they have various kinds of developer stories ranging from break out the C++ and start coding all the way through drag and drop visual editors that are, fitting into the no code sort of scenario. So those are kind of two examples that I would think would be topics for the immersive web. But the point of today is to hear what you think. So please do, if you're in the Zoom chat and you have a topic that you'd like to discuss, now is the time. Add yourself to the speaker queue. Okay. We're going to do dead air for a second. I know somebody out there. Who's going to be first? Who will be the
All
hero?
right. Looks like we've got Corey here. So
Hey, Corey.
I'm going to
I'll
give.
jump in, guys.
Yep. There you go, sir.
Corey
Thanks,
is
Corey.
first. Excellent. Thank
Hey,
you,
guys.
sir. You did it.
No,
You are our
thanks
hero today.
thanks for setting something up like this. I'm excited to be part of it, and also looking forward to the summit later this month. So I recently took I took a MOOC, massive open online course that was centered on XR. I think it was by the University of Michigan on Coursera, I believe it was. And you know, I have my opinion. What was it?
Michael Niebling's course.
Michael Niebling. Look at this guy, Alan. Thank you. Yeah, so Michael did that course, and I enjoyed quite a bit of it. I learned a lot. There were areas that he went into that typically, as like kind of coming from a developer standpoint, I'm glad that he brought up, you know, things about kind of leveling the playing field for everyone coming into this space and helping people with maybe disabilities, and always keeping that in mind. One video series that he presented, which I really appreciated, was from Mike Alger. Do some of you guys know who Mike Alger is? I would love for, and if anyone does know who he is, or if you haven't, I'll send some links in the chat here of XR design theory videos that he's done. He just does a great job of presenting these things, and he's done some research. He worked for Google for a while. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing currently, but I would love for him to do a presentation, or if anyone knows him. I don't know him personally. So just always having sort of forefront design theory and best practices, and like trying to get somewhere where there's a sort of solid standardization, I guess, when it comes to WebXR. So that was kind of my question, if we know who he is or if anybody else has seen some of his videos. I just really like the topics that he brings up.
I don't personally know Mike, but yeah, I could definitely look into it. I've made a note. Yeah, I'll be making notes during the course of the day to make sure that I remember the references that people bring up. I know that also Blair McIntyre is working on a book that is that I think also has a video series and perhaps some XR experiences associated with them that I think fit into the similar thing that you're describing, which is, yeah, how do we sort of coordinate so that people show up in XR spaces and they don't have to relearn all of the interaction techniques from scratch. You know, it took years for us to learn as a culture how to even, you know, use mice and windows and keyboards. And so we have that same problem right now for XR, and standardizing that would be excellent. Okay, somebody in the chat posted a link, so I will follow up on that for sure.
And looks like we have a question from Michael Robbins. So Michael, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Some
Michael.
familiar names and faces. Good to see everyone on this Sunday. I'm Michael Robbins. I'm here in Washington, D.C., and I'm focused on building, along with my co-founder, Cecily Darden-Adams, an organization called Learning Pathmakers. Our centerpiece is how we build a human digital learning ecosystem powered by technology, with XR becoming a real big part of that, both VR and AR, as we look at connecting and credentialing learning opportunities everywhere they happen. One of the things I'm particularly interested in is how we can bring, you know, teens, and in particular those that are the most marginalized, to this. You know, we have an internet that treats all of us, and certainly them, as spectators and participants and consumers. And, you know, this is an opportunity as we move into this new technology to really put them first and to have them be the entrepreneurs and owners of this going forward. We know from a pedagogical perspective, that's one of our fancy learning words for the way we teach and learn, that teens learn by what we call hanging out, messing around, and geeking out. There's a book by Mimi Ito of that name that I will share in the Discord. And we know that learning doesn't happen with a set of curriculum. It doesn't happen with courses being available. It happens in context. It happens when it's purpose-driven learning, when they're actually solving problems. So how can we actually engage teens in solving problems using WebXR?
Those are great topics for sure. Yeah, I mean, we could have a whole conference on the educational use of the web and XR in combination. So great, thank you for that. And I like your hat as well. So just FYI.
This is my Learning Pathmakers Expeditions hat.
Oh, that makes total sense, right? You got to
There
gear
you go.
up for the expedition, and I like it. Okay, oh great, and we have a link in the Slack about the Coursera course as well. That's great, thank you.
Yeah, I'll post a link. There's to an Eventbrite for a meetup we're having on May 6th, just this coming week, if folks want to learn a little bit more about our work.
Great.
Or I guess Steve could probably do that too.
Thanks, Michael. So Code Rex, you are up. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, I see you in Discord as requested to speak. So
Yeah.
you are on deck.
Thanks, Steve. It's actually David Murphy. That's just a Discord handle. So just with respect to yeah, and by the way, that's an old reference. If anyone gets that reference, thumbs up. Okay, you're from a different generation. So with regards to the WebXR Developer Summit, I think it would be very important that the emphasis is on, well, first and foremost, WebXR, the actual API itself, because there is a tendency to broaden it too loosely and to bring in other technologies. And secondly, I think the emphasis should be on development. So maybe it might be an idea to run parallel sessions or strands for designers, for developers, and for more application-focused talks or presentations. But I think if you want to get the right people attending the actual conference itself, the summit, then the emphasis needs to be on development tools, development strategies, etc. And I think it's extremely timely because WebXR, for me, is probably the perfect tool for WebXR and XR development, because the alternative is proprietary app store models, the Oculus, and we'll probably see some more of those coming in this year, I reckon, if Apple come on stream. So I'm a firm believer in community-driven initiatives, a big supporter of web technologies, etc. So for me, this is the killer platform. This is scalable environments, multi-user environments, mediated through this platform, and then with OpenXR hooking in hardware. So I suppose if I have a question to ask, I suppose it's should we consider discussions around tools or abstractions above WebXR? So writing directly for WebXR can be a bit turgid, okay? It can be a bit laborious. And I'm thinking of libraries like 3.js, Babylon, etc. Should we have some discussions on complementary tools to simplify WebXR development? Okay.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, yeah, a couple things related to that. What I heard is that, right, we should focus on the development aspects, sort of closer to the browser, as opposed to maybe much farther up, as in like what types of applications you should make. So that's the first thing that I heard. And then also that really focusing on the developer aspect of it and not design or marketing or sales. And did I get that right, David? Oh,
yep. I again, if it's being pitched as a developer summit,
yeah,
you want to attract developers. Developers don't want to hear about other things. They want to hear about development techniques and strategies and experiences that other people have had. it may be appropriate to have parallel sessions where you could have a design track and you can have an application track, etc. But I think the heart of it needs to be around development. That will make it a standout conference.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of tension that we have with a single day event, is that we have the lovely problem that the world of the immersive web is now bigger than, we can't fit it all in a one-day event, whereas that wasn't true 2 or 3 years ago. We could easily have a one-day event that just sort of covered all the available topics and told what everybody was up to. So it's a wonderful problem to have, but I hear what you're saying about the focus of this event. And I agree, we named it the WebXR developer event for a reason. It's not the WebXR designer summit. Okay, Steve, do we have anyone next on queue?
Yeah, we've got Alan. If you'd like to say a few words, Alan, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, everybody. I just wanted to put out there that thank you to Trevor and Steve and everybody for putting this together. Julie, I know you've been working really hard on this. It's interesting. We are discussing the divide between developers and designers. And one of the things that we're trying to do at Metaverse is we're trying to build an engine or a development platform that kind of seams that together, so that designers and developers can work harmoniously together on a project and not feel left out. One of the things that I'm not a developer, I'm not a programmer, and so when I go into other platforms to design things, I quickly get stuck because I get to a limit where I can't do things. So our whole system is based on these kind of idea of code snippets. And I think of myself more as a designer, but having the ability to work simultaneously with somebody as a programmer, I think is really important. And so I think we have to kind of also look at the fact that WebXR, while things like A-Frame and these other platforms, Babylon.js, are great for developers, they will never serve the needs of designers, period. There's no way, chance, or possibility. I mean, I've been on the training courses for A-Frame and Babylon.js, and I'm like, it's all code. So if you don't know code, you are literally out of the program. So I think there's an interesting time where we can kind of embrace the developers, the designers, but also the people who are going to be paying for it. David, you touched on that, the use cases, and I think we kind of have to pull all of that together, especially being this is the kind of the first developer summit. And I think it's important to show people the use cases and why they would want to use it and why it's important, first of all, and then how to design for it and then how to develop for it. And I think there's definitely a possibility to bring that all together in a conversation and try not to divide everybody into little buckets of you do this, you do this. I think WebXR should be for everyone, and our whole ethos is to unlock the power of XR for everyone, and not just WebXR. I think we keep touting WebXR and things delivered over the web, which is exactly what we're doing, and we're all passionate about it. But in 2 years from now, the M1 chip on the new MacBooks is going to be on a phone. So the web is about to get a massive boost. And I think what is possible on the web today is only a fraction of what's going to be possible tomorrow. And the WebXR standard is a good way to start that. Now, the problem that everybody's going to run into with the WebXR standard is that Apple doesn't care. To be completely frank, they don't care.
That's not entirely correct.
Well, please correct me. I would love to know, how we are able to kind of get this, because we have WebXR working. We turned it on; it works on an Android, great. Apple, it doesn't play nice.
So currently, it doesn't. But I've been involved in the WebKit development team, and I can tell you that it's an active project at the moment within WebKit.
Well, that's
so
great
I'm optimistic that this year there will be a release of WebKit, which is the engine behind Safari and the iOS Safari and all of that. That will hopefully be feature complete with the WebXR API.
That's amazing. If that's the case, then I mean, well, here's the other question that I guess it poses. When that's open and we are, we have a game engine and even Babylon, all the game engines, all of the platforms for creating tools in the web. what happens when you're able to publish directly to the browsers and Apple's App Store no longer has the stranglehold that it does? Will Apple let that happen? And that's the $1 billion question, I guess.
I think that's a great topic that we won't solve today, but we'll have some room to speak on it in the live stream on the day of the summit for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've had the pleasure of working with Apple engineers and security folks in the context of the WebXR working group in the W3C. They are actively involved, and I think they are pretty public about having a WebXR implementation in flight. When it will appear and how it will appear, they are not open about, but they are working on it. So we'll see soon, which is great news. You know, that was often—
That's exciting.
Yeah, that was an open question for a long time, but I think that will not be an open question, right, whenever Apple decides to talk about it in more detail.
And it's very timely now that this week, I believe, is the Epic Apple trial starts. So very timely.
True. They're having an interesting year, aren't they? Okay, so what I heard was that there is some fuzz around what it means to be a WebXR user. There are definitely development oriented libraries and topics, but there's also some bleed over into, you know, the technology itself affects how design needs to be made. You know, the raw materials of the immersive web, of course, have an impact on design as much as the raw materials of wood or metal have an impact on the industrial design of physical goods. So I think it is tricky to have it be very specific to just one type of point of view, but we will definitely do our best in trying to balance that reality with the constraints of the day for sure. So thank you, Alan, for that. And then Steve, who's next?
Looks like we've got a question from Oren DePanther. Did you want me to read that question for you, Oren, or do you want to hop on live? Let me see if he wants to unmute. All right. Basically, what he's looking to do is learn more about the immersive web team and how to better collaborate with them. Must be as an external participant.
I suspect, Oren, that you're talking about the W3C immersive web groups, but definitely correct me if I'm interpreting that incorrectly. Yeah, so the community group for the immersive web effort in the W3C is open to anybody. You don't need to be hosted by a member company, so there are no fees involved with that. And we run most of our communications are async through the GitHub repo. So there's like a proposals area where people talk about new ideas, and then there's more specific things for each individual specification document. So that's a great way to get involved. But yeah, I think on the day of the WebXR Developer Summit, it would probably, yeah, that's a great topic actually, is to talk about who is working on these things and various standards efforts, how to get involved, who to talk to, you know, what the barriers to entry are, if any. I know Kronos has, you know, a number of things like GLTF that are standards that are in process that directly affect, you know, the wider goals of the immersive web. So that's a great topic. Thank you, Oren. And then I got a question that came through from Slido, which is, it sounds like one of the topics that we should talk about is the various requirements that we have currently for hosting live events in the immersive web. You know, we have platforms like Hubs and Frame, as just to pick two examples. But right, there's a lot of complexity involved with that. I think that's a pretty interesting topic as well. Thank you for, I didn't get a note for who submitted the question, but thank you for that topic as well. Steve, who is next on queue?
So I have a question, and we're actually waiting for some folks. So maybe you could help lead this part of the discussion, Trevor.
Sure.
Because interoperability is affecting multiple platforms right now, I'm curious to know in the next year or two, how we'll be able to use blockchain technology to sort of protect privacy and, you know, authenticate users and really get a handle on nefarious activity. So what is being done at the root level to make sure that we maintain privacy, but we also are able to keep track of who is, you know, interacting with each other out there on the web?
Great. Yes, that's an excellent topic, and definitely one that I think bringing up on the day of the summit makes total sense. I just got word that the previous question was from XRIEL, Ariel, Xreal. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but thank you. But back to your question, Steve. Yeah, I think there's actually a bunch of really interesting projects right now on that topic. There's the whole sort of world of W3, Web3, which is in some ways peripheral to things that happen in browsers currently, but it's all based on sort of fully decentralized and to some extent blockchain-based protocols. And then there's the Open Metaverse Initiative is a new initiative that's talking about how to create standards for protocols for interoperating between XR spaces. Yeah, I think that's an excellent topic that it would be really interesting to dig into on the day of the summit, and to bring somebody on. I know that the Hic et Nunc platform for NFTs, for art NFTs, is getting a lot of traction right now in the XR community. I see almost every day, I see someone who has built either a flat screen 3D or an immersive environment, or even, you know, a camera filter that sort of Snapchat style adds AR to webcams, and they've released it as on Hic et Nunc. So that's not the only platform, of course, but it is one that seems to be getting traction with this community. So I think that's a great topic as well.
Trevor, on that note, quick on the whole idea of blockchain and NFTs, we're actually working on a quick trial to see if we can build it right into the publishing. So when you hit publish, it gives you another drop-down menu that says, do you want to protect this through blockchain? And they will give you two options: a fungible and a non-fungible token. And then whatever you choose, you can choose the number of it. So you're basically protecting the entire experience. And it could be anything from, I just want to know who signed in, or test scores on a test, or I'm minting a limited edition experience that only 10 people can see, or whatever it is. But I think this is a really interesting topic. I'm excited to learn about it too.
Yeah, and there's also a lot. Sure. There's also a lot happening in the actual browser implementation space. I think it's Brave, but someone correct me if I'm wrong, that has an implementation of IPFS, which is a distributed file system. And I think they built it right into the browser, so it sort of acts as a parallel protocol to HTTPS. I have a question, actually it's from Alan, so Alan, just stay on. And I think the question is, when will web browsers have access to multi-threading performance? Alan, is that you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that is a great topic. And in fact, yeah, I already have a session in mind that I think links up with this, which is getting some of the browser implementers in a room, on a call rather, to talk about low-level performance and when we can expect to see things like multi-threading and WebAssembly across all browsers. I know Safari just had a big release that included multi-threaded WebAssembly for the first time, so that was a big step forward. So,
you have a link to that, Trevor? Can you toss that in the Discord? I'll look it up. Never mind.
I don't have it at hand, but if you just look for the latest Safari release in the release notes, they have a link to that topic, I think, within there.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. We have a follow-up from Ari on, well, actually, Steve, is there anyone else on the queue? I want to bounce back and forth.
No, this is great. Yeah, it's starting to get a little exciting here. We struck a nerve, I think, with the audience. But yes, Yinch is next. So we'll go ahead and Yinch, if you want to. There he goes. Thanks.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to wherever everybody is. It's so great to see everybody here at this session. I understand that WebXR, WebXR Developer Summit is has developer in its title, and I know that there's a lot of work still to be done within it. And I can see the importance of keeping focus on that. As a developer, as a programmer myself, I'm starting to see use cases and client cases who are interested in WebXR applications. And it might entirely be the case that it's not the role of this summit to address WebXR applications. But I can say that over time, the blend of applications becomes like increasingly important to the medium, where it finally ends up is in applications and in content. And I don't know whether the developer summit is the place to start talking about it. I understand that we still have a lot of stuff to talk about that isn't around applications yet. But if there isn't a separate WebXR applications and a WebXR content summit, is the developer summit like the place where it had to happen? I'm happy for it to not be the place where those things happen, but I think increasingly, like in the last, I think since the launch of the Quest 2, and I know that's very platform specific, since the launch of the Quest 2, it's become it's appeared in people's radars in terms of using WebXR to solve problems which they never used to consider at all. And so certainly the change has been very dramatic. It's been very, very steep compared to, because I was in VR space, just for desktop VR for years before, and the amount of interest in the last 6 months has exceeded interest in the last 4 years. It's just really, really steep. So I'm just wondering about whether there is a forum for applications to be talked about, for content to be talked about, and those don't belong in Developer Summit, or should we try to like have a session on that as well?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, honestly, I have a personal list of the kinds of summits we could have that would be, much more specific to the sort of the broader goals of the immersive web, including, a design summit, an application summit, sales summit, how people use WebXR for various aspects of marketing. I mean, these are topics that we could definitely fill up a whole day in. I think for this developer summit, the goal is, like if we have something about an application space that informs back to the developer about either what they currently have and how they currently solve problems, or the pieces that are missing in order to solve this kind of problem, I think that fits within the context of the developer summit for sure. But I agree with you, right?
Trevor.
Yes.
Perhaps, I've done this at previous conferences before. Perhaps the opening keynote can be something more of a inspirational keynote where it's talking about, what is the ultimate potential of WebXR and where is it going and where is it going to touch? And you can, in a very short amount of time, you're talking, like 15 minutes, you can kind of really lay the groundwork for, where is this going? What's possible? And more of the art of what's possible to get people thinking, oh, I didn't know it could be used for this. I didn't know it could be used for that. And just kind of really hitting people with, here's the potential of this in the future, right before the summit or kind of at the start of it, would set a nice tone for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the broader vision as an opener, so that we sort of set the frame of where these more specific topics fit into the immersive web as a whole. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. I do want to bounce back to what I'm getting from the Slido moderators. Ari Tar, Ariel. Oh, hi. Now I get it. I'm sorry. It's just Ari or Ariel. So wants to know the topic of smoothing the onboarding process and improving server stability. Yep, we have a lot of open questions about the relationship between the client and the server. Replication is a broad topic and has been a deep area of research in the games industry for a very long time, and it's now coming to the web in a very real way and in a different way than games, simply because the technical shape of a web browser is different than what you can get in a native app that you download 4 gigabytes worth of software in order to make happen. So that's a great topic. Thank you, Ari. Got another one from Oren DePanther. with interest to hear, hearing from people who have just developed large-scale WebXR experiences. I agree. That's a relatively small number of people as of 6 months ago, but luckily, as we just talked about, it's a growing number of people. So having that as a topic is great. We've got that. Inspiring future developers from Anthony, indeed. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so I want to make sure that I hear that. Anthony, let me know if this is not what you mean, but it's tempting to just have a bunch of people who have worked on WebXR for 10 years, you know, or the precursors of WebXR for 10 years, instead of having more people who are coming from some different modality of thought or developer community or application space. So, okay, interesting. I'll think more about, and we'll definitely talk about after this meeting when we're writing the schedule, how to fit in some of that for sure. And Michael Robbins has web monetization using Interledger. Yes, and that I think fits into the broader scope of blockchain and decentralization. Performance and optimization, yep, from D. Murphy. And then, okay, let's, oh, I'm sliding off screen. Whoops. Okay, so I think that is, oh, they're from Discord and some from Slido. So I think Steve, let's bounce back to the speaker queue.
Sure, absolutely. I think Michael has some additional comments to talk just a little bit more about content authenticity and ownership. So maybe we can open that up to a cross-panel discussion to talk about the importance of, you know, how WebXR is going to, you know, be able to allow people to maintain their own privacy or their own information. So.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, we touched on this a little bit, right? Talking about blockchain and NFTs. I think what we're seeing, you know, with blockchain and then, you know, even more narrowly with NFTs is, you know, an imperfect solution that people are wanting to apply to all different situations. We're already seeing sleep mining, cloning with NFTs. There's, you know, imperfect ownership and monetization. I mean, it will have its place, but, you know, I think categorizing this, you know, broadly around, like, you know, the categories I use are around digital sovereignty, right? Like our independent identity, independent of any platform. And then the second is on data dignity. So,
say more about that. I'm not sure I understand that phrase.
Data dignity is the term that Jerome Lanier uses. If you've seen The Social Dilemma, and you know, it's the fundamental concept that we should own and control our own data now and in perpetuity, which, you know, both self-sovereign identity and data dignity haven't been feasible really for the last 30 years, right? And now they're becoming feasible. And this advent of ownership actually offers promise to move us out of, you know, what I'm seeing really right now is like the digital Middle Ages, where, you know, authority and ownership is akin to the, you know, to the feudal era in human society. So I think, you know, couching this in those terms, and then tools like WebXR is part of the broader spatial web, you know, give an opportunity for us to have, you know, open standards. The conversation earlier about the epic battles, pun intended, are just the beginning, right? The battles, you know, that's Goliath versus Goliath. The real battle is going to be, you know, how we create, you know, ownership, how we create digital democracy, how we create digital justice. And, you know, when I look at WebXR and the way that we can integrate with things like that, it gives us a pathway forward. I'll just mention those two particular or the couple of links I put in the Discord chat, just to add some clarity. C-Link is a path-making way to establish digital content ownership that does not require blockchain, right? So we don't have problems with mining, and it uses smart contracts, and you can add monetization to it. Similarly, the web monetization standard and the interledger transfer protocol are protocols for you know, transferring monetary value that don't require cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like there's, I think what I'm hearing is that the direct link to, WebXR and the evolution of the immersive web and these topics is, how does the evolving set of technologies and standards that are at this point a little bit separate from the web, how do they inform where we would like to go with the broader story of the immersive web? Would you agree that that's the story?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Great.
distributed applications being another part of that.
Great. That's a great topic. Thank you. It looks
David,
like,
I noticed a visual cue right there that you were tuned into this part of the conversation. Did you want to comment? You seem to be very happy. There's that smile.
It's just it's the reference to Epic and Apple.
yeah, it's so interesting watching those huge ships pass by each other. Yeah,
it's very instructive for us as developers because obviously, as Charles Handy said, you have the elephant and the flea in terms of how businesses and organizations react and move, etc., and the dynamics between them. But as developers, most of our developer communities are small operations. They're 1 or 2 person companies, and it throws up a very interesting question. How do you percolate to a level of visibility where your work, your products become visible globally on the platform? Very hard to do that with the App Store model, which is what Facebook and Apple and Google, etc., are all using for obvious reasons. But on the web, it's more like the Wild West. And so a very challenging thing for studios and for small companies, startup companies in the WebXR space is, how do you get noticed? Now again, that's more on the application end. I'm not sure if that's relevant to the summit, but it's something that so I'm a professor, so I don't actually do this stuff commercially, but my own graduates and students have their own companies, startup companies, and I know that this is very pertinent for them, how to survive and how to succeed as a company in this space.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, and you talked a little bit about earlier, David, about like developers are in their own little universe, right? That they're doing their own thing, and the challenge is that then what happens is you get the idea that can't leave the room, and if we're actually, and to solve this and to solve your problem of visibility, I think part of the key solution is to in fact co-create solutions with user communities, right, around context, around applications, and that is a pathway to get some of these smaller things, not just independently, but working in concert, noticed, and the power and capabilities seen at the community levels. I look closely at Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm book as a model for that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we actually just had a big success on for a shared XR space, which was the Secret Sky event that happened recently. Yeah, that's definitely learning how that came about and what that meant for them, I think is an interesting topic that could help a lot of people get informed on that. From Discord, we have programming design patterns for developers. Excellent, for sure. D. Murphy, thank you. Looks like we have some interest in hearing from the Education Poly winner, actually, Keith Chan, and the framework winner, Jason Johnston. Yeah, that's both of those voices are definitely interesting in the context of the story of the wider web and what we can do there. Yeah, so I'm bouncing back and forth between the Discord questions that are rolling into the text channel I have and then the speaker channel. Steve, do we have more on the speaker queue?
Yeah, Keith, Jason, do either one of you maybe want to share some of your feedback based on the request from the audience today? We'd love to hear from both of you. Keith, sure. I've got you on an open mic. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting to hear everything that's been said so far. And I'm Keith Chan. I made Anthropomedron. It's the Virtual Anthropology Museum. So I'm wondering what level is this summit aiming for? Because we've been hearing about pro developers and people who've been doing this for years and years, and also how it's been building in popularity. So trying to get people involved. Like I started like 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, so relatively new, and just kind of thinking about kind of how to bring in more people should be something that is addressed. That's it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's a open question both for the developer summit and specifically, and I think for the immersive web as a whole, is what are the gaps that we're leaving because of the momentum of the existing community versus the potential of a community that hasn't even tapped into XR yet. You know, I know a lot of the XR community either has or has built up capabilities that are around things like game engine sort of equivalents, things like 3JS or Babylon.js, or even React 3 Fiber. And so, right, hitting the balance of welcoming in more people who are not already experienced with those things and just want to hear about evolutions of those versus people who need the wider context is something that we'll have to balance for the day and any future events that are planned in this space, whether we do it or someone else.
Jason, how about you? Do you have a few comments or ideas?
Sure. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah, I've been jotting down a few notes here. I can just kind of go down. I thought it was really interesting, the discussion around developer focused versus design focused. I'm always of the attitude that the two are pretty inseparable. So I understand the desire for sort of clear focus, but they're not easily extractable from each other. And I think cross-pollination there is always useful. On the development focused topic, I'm working on a fairly complex WebXR application right now at Verizon. And maybe 95% of the work that I do is just kind of general WebGL work. There's very little of it that ends up being XR specific. So maybe keep that in mind as you're trying to decide which topics to choose. Give preference to those that are more XR specific. See, other than that, yeah, performance and optimization, and just sort of echoing the crowd there. Details about current and future browser support. To be forward thinking, maybe somebody who knows the topic, talk a little bit about WebGPU. I think in the community, we have the sense that, oh, this is going to solve everything. This is the next greatest thing, but I don't think a lot of us really know what specifically that will entail. And then more on the designer side, but also affecting development, common interaction patterns. What are our interaction primitives on the 2D web? We have a click. So what's the equivalent?
The spatial equivalent.
Yeah, exactly.
Of a click.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that there is such a thing, but
we actually just got 3D hover states working. That was kind of cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on my team we call this progressive immersion. The web is kind of unique in that we do progressive enhancement as a first class concept, and that's sort of a unique advantage of the web platform. So getting some discussion on that, I think, would be great.
Great.
That's what I've got.
Thank you so much. Right. Recorded and noted. I think, yeah, the tensions that you brought up and the interrelationships between sort of the lower level aspects of it and the higher level aspects, that's the balance that we'll strike. One of the questions from Chili Mango that I just got I think from Discord is just an expression of general confusion. Is the WebXR and the WebXR Developer Summit does that mean the WebXR device API, or is it the more general use of the term? And it is the more general use of the term, but it is specifically on the web, and it's specifically for applications that maybe as one of the modes of the application, but does use XR in some form, whether it be a portal view on a handheld or an immersive display, or even just using the, sort of the input device APIs that handle track controllers. So I hope that sort of clears up. It's
That was me. I'm Chili Mango. Just
hey Corey, yeah.
No, I appreciate you answering that. I and this is coming from, like, I'm brand new to the XR space, and
sure.
I'm genuinely excited about WebXR and even platform based, even closed garden type development areas. And so, but I'm really excited about the potentials of WebXR. And so that was a question I had, just because at least for maybe newcomers to this space, you hear that term WebXR now. And of course, a year ago or maybe a little more, it was WebVR. And so I really like that it's X now. But you could, of course, have an entire discussion on semantics. But just for newcomers, when they come across that term, what is it that they think it is versus, specifically, the device API, or is it the whole family of different technologies that enable you to create these experiences on the web? So just something that I'm always trying to get my head around properly. So.
Yeah, it is a glorious problem to have, but right, the permeability of what XR and the web means is sort of breathtaking when you start listing out all of the pieces and parts that go into a full experience. And so knowing what the topic is for the day is something that we will need to be very clear about, both internally as we plan the schedule and also in communications to people at the beginning of the day. So thank you for that, for sure.
All right. So we're still waiting for questions, comments. If anybody has anything, they're welcome to direct connect me. I have a question though to Trevor.
Sure.
We've got the Pico, is it the Neo 3?
Yeah.
And of course, Vive is now tantalizing us with the possibility of a mobile headset coming out. Look into the crystal ball here. Of those two platforms or beyond, are we going to have a WebXR browser here soon that's going to compete with the Oculus Quest?
There's a couple, yeah, right. That is definitely a topic that I would like to have on the day, just to open that discussion. But
what a question.
Right. Just context for anybody who doesn't know, I was the product manager on Firefox Reality when we started it. And so it is currently, as far as I can tell, in maintenance mode. There's still people fixing things and making sure that it works on the platforms that it works on, but it is not, as far as I can tell, moving forward. And when that happened, I was bummed out, frankly. I liked that we had the Chromium set of companies that were working on the core together. That includes Facebook and Google and Microsoft now, Samsung, Opera. Forgive me if I forget some. It's a big list, but it's a very interesting community of developers sort of orbiting around Google, the Google Chrome team as the core contributors. And so the question of whether we'll have more diversity than that in web engines versus standards that just get implemented once and everybody agrees in that one implementation. And I think we're at sort of a turning point for the web around this, whether we've always had this back and forth between browser implementer teams and the standards community, and it's always political, and there's always a back and forth on where things get decided and who implements what when, as we're seeing with Apple and WebXR is a good example. But it's sort of, we're at a new point where the majority of web traffic is on a single engine across all of the device types. That is a somewhat new thing. So I definitely want to talk about that on the day. We did see an interesting piece of progress where Imanol, what is his last name? Imanol, who works on Igalia, for Igalia, working on WebKit, just got working WebXR on a fully open software stack. So Linux at the core, OpenXR implementation by Monada, Calabra's implementation of OpenXR, and then WebKit, the open source, fully open source version, and then WebXR working on top of that. So for the first time in an actual headset, like the the Valve Index or the North Star headset, we had an actual implementation that was fully open source. So some of those things are evolving, but that is an excellent topic for the day that I will be sure. Fernandez, thank you. Imanol Fernandez.
North Star headset. Oh, is that the one you had to make yourself?
Yes, sort of. There's now a company that's actually producing them called Combined Reality. So they're off the shelf at this point. I think they're having a Kickstarter at some point soon for a bigger a launch of something that's it's not 3D printed. It uses injection molding for all the parts and things like that.
Exciting.
So,
Meta made a comeback this week. The Meta
Yeah.
glasses made a comeback this week
Meta,
under Campfire,
yeah.
I think they called them.
Yeah, there's a lot of announcements coming up that I think will be really interesting
Cool.
in that space, but definitely a topic for the day, for sure.
All right, so we've got Ginch is up on deck again, and then we have another comment from Michael after that. So let's go to Ginch if you want to open up your mic.
Hi, great, thanks. It's me again.
Hello.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that having come from other worked on other platforms before VR and before WebXR, that WebXR poses an interesting convergence of a number of things that have been like 3/4 done. VR is 3/4 done, WebGL is 3/4 done, mobile web was 3/4 done. And then with WebXR, suddenly they all joined up. And I guess one of the topics of the summit, it poses, it's a challenging topic, is some parts of the WebXR discussion are actually in the backyard of discussions that have been going on for 10 years. How do you solve, like the idea that we could, and this has happened to me in terms of the projects I've had to do, the fact that we moved our VR project from being desktop native based to being web based was a thing that it would not have occurred to us that it would be on the list of how we would solve it, and it's done it, and in that sense, and it answers a number of old questions, like questions which are not new questions, like how do I solve this problem for my client? But it also means that it's really easy to end up trying to answer questions which are actually not WebXR questions. Usability questions, security and privacy questions, and I wonder whether there would be a flow chart to work out what things should be in scope and what things should be out of scope, just because it easily goes out of scope. And I mean, I don't want, and it's not just a case that, oh, if it's based on some technology that already exists, then it's definitely out of scope. Because I think when it is certain things, when they're put together, they become a different thing, which has to be discussed differently. For instance, for the first time ever, we will be publishing our physical size. We will be publishing that like to the web, and that's not a thing that used to happen. People know the reaction times of people, the reach of people, use patterns, the size of their play spaces. We're sort of like we are able to capture physical data about spaces. Unlike any time in history. And you could possibly say, well, that's not a WebXR problem, that's like a VR problem. But then it becomes like, is it like a privacy problem? And so we've become, we stand on the shoulders of giants in terms of how mobile phones have made this technology possible with small screens, and also the miniaturization and the power they put in mobile platforms and high density battery packs and all that. And so we stand on the shoulders of giants. But I think we also carry some of the legacies of those issues, and I think there's sort of two sides of me. That one that says that we'll be crushed under the weight of the expectations of people saying WebXR will solve all this, and on the other hand of like overreaching slightly and saying that, well, it will solve all this. This, all problems will go away because WebXR is around. So scoping the summit, I mean, I'm glad somebody else is doing it.
Yeah, it will not be perfect. I'm just telling you right now. So we will do our very best, and this conversation is part of trying to do our very best on it. But right, there's not a perfect solution for this. So it will be a balance of things. I think it's interesting talking about, right, the momentum of platforms like, Android and iOS on mobile, and the deals that we've made with manufacturers and Apple and Google about what is acceptable privacy and security on a device that we sort of hold at arm's length. And is that different than a device that we have on our face? Those are different questions. Something that's between us and the world. Do we have different expectations of privacy and security for those things? So that's definitely a topic. I agree with you. That's a topic that is not. It is directly relevant to WebXR at an API level. We, in the standards group, we talk about it almost more than anything else. We talk about graphics performance and the shape of APIs, but maintaining the people's expectations about what a web browser will and won't let happen when you go to a website, moving that into the context of XR is complex, and it is a constant topic of conversation within the standards community. So I don't think that's in any way out of bounds for the kinds of conversations we'll have to have in the context of the developer summit. We could fill a whole day with that as well, but it is definitely, I think, relevant for sure.
I also wanted to raise a note about the fact that although WebXR is new, it is built on top of a number of pre-existing technologies. And one of like the big breakthrough tools for me was I work mainly in Unity, and when people say WebXR is new, the developers and sometimes content creators will say, well, do I have to learn a whole new thing? Like I work with lots of designers who are not aware that VR loads the same 3D file format as everything else. They think of it as being over there and not for them and not to solve their problems. And really, I think that there's a lot of like good ground, like quick ground to be made to find out existing pools of content creators for whom the WebXR jump is shorter, if that makes sense. People who are already game developers, maybe, or people who are already spatial developers. I've been trying to access B2B markets where the companies I approach already have 3D models as in their stack. If you want to offer an enhancement to the service, you don't want them to have to learn 7 things. You can make them learn 2 things, maybe at a stretch. Usually they want to learn those things and to be able to use it, and then that's fine as well. But I found that it really opened. I was aware of WebXR for the longest time, but until I could make WebXR through the tool I knew, which was Unity, which DePanther made possible, by the way, who's in the call right here. So thanks to him, he made that possible. Then it would help WebXR get momentum if you ride on the momentum of like tool users who are already out there. I just wanted to say that.
I agree. That's a great topic. The thing that pops to mind is the 2D illustrators and animators who are using Grease Pencil and Blender. Blender is a 3D app. That jump from within the tool is in some ways, we can make that a lot easier to generate WebXR experiences for those.
Actually, it's interesting, Trevor. I think there's a huge opportunity you just nailed on in the fact that we already—
Hold on, Alan. Before I want to remind people that we're using the Slido, so please open up the Slido. There are a bunch of questions in there, and we need you to upvote the ones that you think are important, so that after this meeting, we can go through and prioritize based on those as well. So if you haven't already opened that, the URL, I believe, is now in the chat and in the stream as a QR code or an event ID. Please take a moment to go ahead and do that. Alan, back to you.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you for that. I was looking for the slide earlier. What I was going to suggest is that because 3D is not new, and there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of 3D developers in the world, I think maybe we can tap into the Blender community, the Maya community, the Cinema 4D community, and really expose them to the possibilities of WebXR. because like I think it was Yinch mentioned that there's already these people that they understand the world that we play in, they understand 3D. And I think, there's a big leap of not understanding anything and even what 3D is to the basic understanding of, what a texture file is and these types of things. There's a huge gap between that. And there's no gap when you come, when you're already working in Blender or Maya or these 3D platforms. So maybe there's a way to kind of get them to come to these types of events, or maybe we can make a partnership with Blender and with these other ones to send out a message to everybody, say, hey, this is what's happening. Can you invite your community?
Yep, I agree. Workflow is a topic that I would love for us to make time for in the day. In sort of the end-to-end tooling, I think that's relevant to developers, and it's relevant to other communities for sure. So one of the topics I think that I know that we have more people on the queue, so I haven't forgotten that, but on the speakers queue. But one of the topics I think that that I've heard from a lot of people, not in this call, but I think is what exactly are the types of privacy that we want to express to XR hardware makers in terms of what we expect and what we will not accept. That's a topic I think is important to talk about within the context of WebXR, because it informs browser implementers, it informs API design, and it informs tool makers on how to even create how to communicate what is being asked for, and sort of to let us create applications that don't violate people's expectations. Steve, who do we have next on the queue?
We've got Nicholas coming up here, and then we've got a couple of other behind that. So it's getting exciting here. A lively discussion. This is fun.
Great.
Nicholas?
Hey, how's it going? So I'm on a small R&D team at PBS, and we've been exploring with WebXR and the WebXR API. And PBS is a federated model, so we have a lot of member stations that are starting to produce their own content. And as I've been exploring the API, I've noticed that it is kind of meant for discrete experiences. So you'll start a session and you can pack as much as you want into that session. But it is, very much like a single, you can't transition easily to another disparate session that might be living on a different server created by a different team. And I was wondering if there's been any discussion, or if this is even the right direction, or a question to ask of, just like we can hop around to different web pages, should we be able to do that in WebXR in an immersive experience and really truly explore the web that might live somewhere else?
Sure. In the standards groups that I'm in, we call this the sort of the navigation problem, or the navigation issue. And being able to hop from experience to experience, from website to website, without leaving the context of immersion. How and when is that sort of possible on a technical level? How and when does that violate users' expectations? One of the main problems is about trusted UI. On a web browser, we have that trusted bar at the top. In XR, we're giving over all the pixels to a website. So if they create a false version of the trusted UI, how do we prevent that from really violating people's expectations? So I think that is an excellent topic, and one that I will be sure that we have a conversation on. To answer, I think what the original question was is, are the standards communities working on it? And the answer is yes. It has been an issue the entire time. We've tried to not back ourselves into a corner so that we will eventually get to that in some form or another. But there's a lot of open questions to it, mostly, honestly, about privacy and security. And we think we know how we can solve the technical aspects of it in some reasonable way. But the bigger questions of how to not break the expectations of the web, those are not answered yet, but we are working on them. Okay, Steve, who's next?
We've got Corey, and then we've got a conversation from Michael about artificial intelligence after that.
Mm-hmm.
So Corey, you're up, my friend.
Okay. Hey, and I just want to say thanks for bringing that up, Nicholas. That that is a topic, frankly, like when I try to bring, I've gotten bitten by the XR bug, right? And I'm always talking to new people about it. And when they're trying to wrap their head around it, they're like, well, how do you do this? And that's a topic that comes up all the time. And I'm like, yeah, that's a problem, isn't it? So definitely an area that I want to keep an eye on. So I think it's been brought up a few times today, and I want to say it was Jason that you brought up like that progressive XR, progressive WebXR concept. And it's something in my mind. And again, I just want to say, like, I'm still very fresh to the area, to the space, and I hope that's a good thing for us all, right? A lot of times novices can bring up questions that are, maybe 9 out of the 10 of them are stupid, but one of them you're like, oh, whoa, that's something that I've been in it for so long that that didn't come up. So on progressive, like experiencing XR in the web and making that maybe just streamlining it. And it's hard for me to properly state the question, but basically how today, you have media queries in CSS. You allow, something as rudimentary, as that, to access the devices and say, okay, how should I display this information just right away? No one has to hit a button. No one has to take an action. And that's accessible via, that platform. Is that something where we're going to get to sometime soon? Maybe that could be a discussion on the WebXR API. Like, is that somewhere where we want to go, where it's very streamlined and very easy for someone to get a new device, say, and it just display properly on that device without them having to take any action?
Let me repeat back what I heard, and then you tell me what I got right and wrong about what I heard. It sounds like I heard a couple of things. I heard that right now there exists a bit of a sort of a barrier to entry. So you tell someone about an XR experience, and they go and get the headset and they put it on, and then there's kind of several steps before they actually get into an immersive experience. Is that one of the things that you're bringing up?
I think that's a good way to say it. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. And then the other aspect is, on a technical level or sort of an API level, is it possible to, when somebody lands on a web page, just go ahead and take them into the immersive experience if the headset's capable? But if they're on the phone, of course, we just show them the flat experience and that sort of thing. Is that the other side of the coin that you're talking about?
That's where I'm really focused, in terms of, before all of the current tech that we use to make the experience nice on a phone. Mm-hmm. Of course, when the iPhone came out in 2007, it's like you never wanted to use that browser. You didn't want to use it. Now everyone uses it. That's where I'm kind of like, how can we get to that?
Right. Yeah, I think there are a couple of different pieces of that topic that would definitely be interesting to discuss. Things like, if you're on your phone and the ability to sort of be on a web page that says, oh, this has an XR experience, do you want to send it to your headset? And then the next time you get in the headset, it's just waiting there for you somehow without typing, without laser pointing some URL with a controller or having to hook up a Bluetooth keyboard, that sort of thing. Okay, yeah, I think that's a great topic and one that's worth exploring for sure.
Thanks.
And then I wanted to take the break. So one of the things about Slido is that it has a very nice mobile web application, which is sort of an enjoyable thing to have as a second screen if you're in Zooming. So just FYI, if that makes it more attractive, it's pretty sweet. I've tried it. Steve, who is next?
So we're going to shift our conversation into artificial intelligence for a minute. And okay. I want to qualify that quickly. It's my understanding that AI requires a huge amount of computational resources. So how far away are we from being able to run AI through these WebXR platforms? And then after you address that, we're going to give Michael an opportunity to kind of share what his thoughts are on artificial intelligence as well. So I'm on the tech side and Michael's on the human side.
Okay. There's a couple of really different threads that I could pull on this topic. One is that the boundary of where things run is really becoming dynamic. So 5G, right, it gets a lot of hype and most people talk about the bandwidth and the response times. But one of the other things that's happening with that rollout is edge compute nodes, where a service that you talk to that's in a remote colo can sort of send a piece of executable code, bytecode, to run on a node that's one network hop from your devices. So running AI on some battery-powered frames might be a bit of a problem, but running it one network hop away is almost as fast, and you can get a lot done using that. And the hardware is changing as well. There are some really interesting pieces of AI or vector math specific hardware that are coming down the pipeline that will help us with some of these local models as well. So I don't think we'll be training AI models on our battery powered headsets anytime soon, but running them is coming for sure. So that's one of the threads, and we could bring someone who knew a lot more about that than I do to talk about that. I've had a few interesting conversations, but I am not an expert on that for sure. And then the other thread that I know about is that we are in conversations with our devices a lot more. So not solely things like Siri or Google Assistant, but obviously people are working on three-dimensional representations of characters, some human, some not, who are conversational and can do natural language processing. So that's another aspect of AI that I think will be very relevant to any sort of immersive XR experience, and probably also not too long in the future on handheld XR. But yeah, let's go to Michael and see. Michael, did I hit any of the topics that you meant when you said AI?
The edge computing, edge AI. I touched on earlier about data dignity, and that leads to how we can incorporate solid technology and related things into this work. But I think that as any discussion on capabilities also has to discuss ethics, and that this transition to the spatial web generally, and certainly XR being a huge part of that, gives us an opportunity to address this up front. We see what's happened in other places when we haven't, and automation is raging out of control. So, there are issues around, transparent and explainable and ethical AI, around human AI interaction, and then getting even more nuanced, when we look at the issues raised in the movie Coded Bias, around algorithmic bias, and then even more nuanced cultural limitations of natural language processing, right? I mean, this, we can say, and I think back to Yinch's comment about this becomes an issue of scope. We can say that this isn't directly related, but we have a chance to make it directly related, and to really force these issues in a way that we haven't before.
Yeah, it is a topic on my mind for sure. There's lots of interesting work going, like the IEEE has a ethics in XR group that is starting to build a consensus around some mental framework for how to think about these things. Obviously, all of the major XR hardware manufacturers above a certain size have groups that think about this at some level. How much they're respected is an open question. But yeah, we'll have to, we'll have to figure out what the balance is for the day on how to fit in these conversations. Because I agree, sort of inherent with the technology is the ethical decisions around how we, even if just how we present it, even if it doesn't actually affect the APIs or down at the lower level, even just how we talk about it, and to set people's expectations for what they're sharing, and how, whether they're talking to someone who is carbon-based or biological or computational. Like there's a lot of that I think is relevant. So figuring out the balance of that, I think, is going to be very tricky, but I hear you that it's relevant.
It's it's also relevant to adoption, and I've worked in education where we see just technology after technology get eaten for breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And my corollary to Clark's third law, which is any technology which is indistinguishable from magic will be burned at the stake. And this is what we're working with is going to look like magic to a lot of people, and we need to make sure that it is in fact distinguishable from magic.
Yes, that's a good point. Steve, let's keep rolling.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we have a comment here from Larry Rosenthal about VRML, and Larry's been around the block a couple of times, so I'd love to get some comments from you, Larry. Larry, are you with us?
I just saw that message. How you doing? I just
welcome.
Thank you. Deja vu. This whole meeting. I just caught the AI question. I mean, I'm glad that the final part of the answer came in about the ethics of it all. I mean, just to make a quick comment, WebXR, again, 25 years has all been about social XR, the things that we're doing now, which is about bringing humans into the mediated world. And now you're immediately talking about putting robots in charge again. And basically, why have a world of AI NPCs when you're role-playing with NPCs like in World of Warcraft with other friends? So that's just one quick comment. But, to the majority of the direction. I don't know, I see messages here about NFTs, about digital rights ownership. My original comment was just about Web 3D. There's 25 years of this. The last comment was just brought up about technologies being eaten. I mean, starting with VRML as Web 3D, which it was, or now we call it WebXR. The tools and the money keeps leaving them. That's the point. So whatever this WebXR town hall, whatever the Web 3D consortium does today, I would hope that it looks at what it tried to do over the last 25 years and why it failed or didn't fail in certain places. And it's all there on the web. I mean, you may have to go to the Wayback Machine and look at text and JPEGs because, of course, nobody stores 3D information on the internet for 25 years because you have to pay for servers. So that's my comment. I don't have a question really. I saw there was an event coming up. Great, wonderful. Bring more people. And Blender is important, by the way. I think Blender is very important because every 25 years there's an engine shift, a technological shift in the hardware that opens up the software, and that's what the Blender finally, after 25 years, is stepping into. I mean, so that's it. My comment.
Great, thanks, Larry. Yeah, I agree. I hacked VRML when it first came out and was really excited about it, and so I've seen a couple of these waves. It's really, I have to actually do a lot of work to not spend most of my time pointing to the previous things that are in this space because it's useful to some extent, but also.
I made a business in VRML, so there's a difference between hacking it, and making a business in it, and losing it.
For sure. I mean, web payments
Larry,
is it? Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to making a fortuitous plug for you in CubeXR. I know you're producing a show inside Mozilla Hubs. Did you want to comment on that? How it's coming along?
Sure. Well, I mean, we have a couple of different shows. We do the Mediaverse Lounge, which is open to any, which is more of a group discussion. What we're doing here, we do it with the live audience in Hubs, and we tape it and then put it up on Twitch and YouTube. And then also Brett Leonard and I have just started the Virtual Word. We've done 2 of them as a podcast, also being recorded as audio and also as the video in Hubs. And we put 2 of those episodes up. It's just 2 old guys talking about stuff that we've seen in 30 years of this. And, I just, the future is based on, the present, which is based on the past. And to hear just one quick comment. If this is a business about experience, don't knock experience. It's a pun.
Great. That's funny. All right, Trevor, how about this? We are 90 minutes in, which is amazing that we've already been going this long. We haven't spent too much time talking about education yet, and I'm starting to see some questions that come across the different channels. So I'd like to give Daniel an opportunity to kind of reach out to the community. Basically, Daniel, I'll read your question and give you a chance to follow up here. Basically, he's asking if anyone has developing any curriculum or lesson plans for teaching WebXR. So Daniel, please.
Hey guys, I'm really excited about the upcoming summit, and where I'm coming from a position of being an artist and designer, not really a developer. So usually I look at code and go, I don't want to write a function. I just want to move boxes around, and that's interesting enough for me for now. So I'm at about a 7th grade level in terms of CS understanding, depending on the 7th grader.
Yeah.
But we have in our public school district in this little California suburb, we have a fair amount of computer clubs and 3-level computer science classes for the high school. And so I'm interested in using kind of high-level tools like A-Frame or even GUI tools like hubs to introduce students to 3D on the web. What I like about both of those tools is that they're easily accessible on any device, tablet, desktop, or with a headset. And so it solves the facilities and tools problem of like, we don't have VR headsets for everyone, but if everybody has a Chromebook that can probably load a hub space. And if I'm interested in seeing if anyone else has developed a lesson plan or a curricula for it. And if not, could we talk a little about how to put those together? I think Ada Rose Cannon has been working on a couple of things like that. I know in January there was a WebXR meetup that hinted at some of those, and I'd be happy to work with a developer to put some together as well. I'm actually considering planning an 8th grade promotion ceremony in hubs, depending on whether I can get teachers on board. But that's kind of where I'm at, is that I'm a dad looking over the kids' shoulders thinking, I know we can put together something as simple a workflow to create things that could compete with Roblox or other private metaverses that could get students interested in 3D on the web while still getting them connected to the standards and open principles of web technology. Thanks.
I agree. That's a great topic. I would love to see a session right on the very, and in some ways it's unique, the combination of workflows and presentation and prepared, documents and experiences that go into making a good educational experience, and not just at the middle or high school levels, but also in college. There's definitely a need for that. And I know several people who are working on that. So having that conversation as a topic would be interesting at the summit. You are not alone for that, for sure. This is not the first time.
Yeah, sticking on this topic, we have an anonymous comment coming through. Maybe you'd be willing to speak up here. There's somebody that's looking for some teachers. They're interested in developing lesson plans for teaching WebXR in K through 12. Is there a chance, Daniel, that was you, or do we have another member of the audience that put that out there?
That was me, yes.
All right, good. Well, okay. Well, then it looks like we've got David Murphy. You're up on deck, sir.
Yeah, just I want to come back and support something that Jason mentioned earlier as a topic for the summit. I've been teaching VR since 1998, and so I have very fond memories of VRML, X3D, and all of the iterations since. What distinguishes WebXR from previous technologies is the conceptual difficulty in how to build something, a system, because the WebXR API is a collection of APIs. Someone mentioned this in Discord earlier. When most people talk about WebXR API, they're referring to the device API, but there are other modules around that. And to build an experience that has functionality, if you want multimodality, for instance, if you want spatial sound, that's something external that you have to bring in. Or if you want to have, say, streaming video, streaming audio, then that's another API, WebRTC, that you need to bring in. So from my experience, students struggle, and these are CS students and master's level students, they struggle architecturally, trying to see how all of this fits together and how data flows, etc. So I think that might actually be a very good topic for the summit. Now, it may be pitched as being very advanced, but you know, we're dealing with WebGL, we're dealing with WebGPU, we're dealing with all of these other APIs, and it is, as I say, a bit of a mind wreck, even for some experienced developers. So I'd like to throw that out for the summit.
No, I think that's great. I would love to see us have at least some context of where not just the core WebXR device API, but all of the modules like the AR module and even the tracked input API is very specific. You can actually do tracked controllers separate from having a headset at all. And that is an entire domain of experimentation and use cases that are really interesting. So having someone talk about this bigger picture of, we did this for replication, we did this for audio streaming, spatial audio. These are the things that we had to put in motion in order to work across all of the sort of standard-ish WebGL implementations, and then WebGPU on the horizon. Yeah, I think that context, is really important, hopefully towards the beginning of the day. Even if it's not a ton of time spent on it, I do think it's important context to have. So I agree with you, David. Thank you.
I think that architectural question also helps somebody like me putting together a simpler lesson plan.
Sure.
Because it's, it maps out, hey, these are all the things that I'm going to need to simplify and distill.
Mm-hmm. And I think it would let us also, having conversations with some of the platforms like Wonderland or Sumerian, or some of these like sort of all-in-one platforms. Frame is another example to some extent. Hubs is sort of their spoke model editor is another example. Those pull together dozens of web APIs to make that stuff happen. So being able to have this bigger context of how all those things fit together, even if we're not going to address each of them individually in detail, I think is really valuable. So thank you.
I think like a beautifully designed infographic, like a tech tree would be.
I was thinking of a visualization, yeah.
Right. I love good looking infographics. That would be amazing, but I would not be the one to draw it up.
Sounds like we need to talk to the people from Flow Immersives.
That's true. God, that would be beautiful, wouldn't it? They would do a beautiful job. Okay, let's see. I'm going to scan the questions that are coming in.
While you're scanning, Trevor, I've noticed that we've got a couple of folks that have joined us just in the last few minutes. Liam, do you have any comments that you want to share? I know. Thank you for coming in today. How's it going?
Oh, it's great. Thank you. Yeah, no, I very much wanted to volunteer. We're trying to build a whole suite of open tools and doing a lot of visualizations of how you would actually do social WebXR from peer-to-peer to client server and all these other things about how to build tool chains for creating content, publishing it. And we're really, I'm just running an open team right now that's super interested in everything that you guys are describing. And I'm extremely excited by the work of Robert Long and the Open Metaverse Initiative. And I know Trevor Flowers and others have been there. And I just really want to advertise like that work and say, and foster as much collaboration as possible. Like what David Murphy had said about conceptualizing and integrating all these disparate things from the API and or from browser APIs and how they're brought together to make different products. And yeah, that was essentially it. Very, very compelled that this is all happening. So.
Thank you so much. So let me just, before we wrap up here, we've got about 20 minutes left. I want to just give everybody a quick program reminder here. We are facilitating our conversations today in Slido. as well as in the Discord chat. And if anybody would like to speak up here in Zoom, all of your comments are being directed to me, and we're using the function of stacking. So all you need to do is just type the word stack in the chat. It'll go directly to me, and I will put you in queue if you have any questions or comments. Trevor, do you want to kind of see what we've got in the queue there?
Sure. Let me know if we have another speaker, but in the meantime, some of the comments coming in from Discord, it seems like one of the topics that is interesting is, right, the system architecture challenge. Like, how do we get a grasp on all of the various pieces and parts, but also multiple modes? So the different, I'd say there's 3 display modes. There's flat, and then there's sort of portal when you're looking through into a space, and then there's immersive. There are different control types, like on the page, you have a flat button, you have overlay controls that are on top of some portal that you're looking through, and then you have spatial controls that you actually reach out and touch, or you laser point. And so, right, how to think about switching among those different modes. It is several orders of magnitude more complex than designing for any single one mode. So it's inherently different than designing just for VR. And it's inherently different than designing just for mobile web. So that context, I think, fits nicely in with the rest of the discussion we just had about the multiple APIs that come together to support the various kinds of experiences that you can build.
Cool. All right, we've got Michael Robbins from Learning Pathmakers in Washington, D.C. Michael?
Hey, Michael.
Thanks. I'll keep my comments brief and just refer to the what I put in the Discord. We had some conversation here about education, and yes, absolutely, we need a whole set of resources on the curriculum instruction side. But we know that the real endemic failing of STEM education has not been on the supply side; it's been on the demand side. And I think to the years I spent as a senior leader with the first robotics competitions, this initiative, if you're not familiar with, I put a link in the Discord, founded by Dean Kamen. And, it was really, really like problem-based contextual learning. You have a game, you have a challenge, you have a box of parts, you have to build a robot. And, for us, this is part of our approach with building a connected learning ecoverse starting here in DC, is how do we actually give young people a problem that matters to them, right? And a context, and so that they can engage in learning WebXR and all of these other things, so that in fact what they're doing is designing the future. They're co-creating the future that they're going to live in, right? This is the world of learning and digital society that will define not our future. I mean, it will to some degree, but it's their future. So I've been thinking about, what would FIRST look like for this? And I'm overdue reaching back out to Dean, because I think FIRST would be a great network for us to leverage there. And then also sort of another step along the way, you'll see I posted, how do we map the competencies for XR? And think about it broadly. There's a model there that my colleagues in Pittsburgh did with this Remake Learning initiative. But if we think about everything from graphic design to computational optics to WebXR, what are all these different things?
Yeah, I agree. We need the sort of the skill tree from MMOs, but for WebXR and immersive web development in general, and sort of the wider story that people can see all the things that trickle up into making a complete environment. But then also for people who are making tools to know, oh, these are the things, if I want to avoid this whole tree of skills that are necessary to make this kind of experience, what are the tools that I need to build? Yeah, I think it's an interesting.
Perhaps that skill tree actually already exists somewhere. For other things that we can just kind of take it and modify it to the WebXR, because I think that's a really, really good point. And I'm actually writing a course with Julie right now on introduction to 3D and XR and all this stuff. And where do you start? How deep do you go? How, it's a lot of questions there. I mean, 3D is not a simple thing. It's, that just explaining textures is a whole course on itself. So yeah, the skill tree thing is a really, really good idea. And maybe we can kind of pull it from the gaming industry or something, pull it into this, maybe it already exists. We can just copy it.
To put it in perspective, I'm explaining to people on a regular basis the difference between AR and VR, right?
Sure.
That's like the first thing you say to somebody before and then the thing is, you get dirty looks from somebody who's in the industry. They're like, what? Why? But then you got to remind them, look, nobody knows what this stuff is about. So.
All right.
Targeting your audience is key. I mean, again, that's also 25 years of doing this. I mean, between understanding the difference between, marketing to a consumer, also marketing to a coder, marketing to the game industry. I mean, the game industry is not even on board yet with VR completely. Ask Sony, right? Or ask a developer working for Sony who makes games. So, you have to target different audiences. I mean, you have a wide set of different audiences you're talking to.
So this is a great point, Larry. And there's some comments. In fact, the Slido is on fire right now with all kinds of comments. So we struck a nerve again. I love it. Somebody put a note anonymously here that they'd like to review during the summit technical capabilities of the devices themselves. And I think that we are, limited quite a bit by these devices. And that's, so let's maybe redirect our conversation back to, some of the tech stack. Trevor?
I agree. We're in some ways we're in a strange transition time for we're moving to WebXR for a lot of our stack. We're dealing with innovations every day about lens design and mechanical design and electronic design. So having a topic which is what are the current capabilities of headsets that we can count on. What do we expect over the next year or two from the perspective of developer use? I see Justin Rogers is on the call, so I won't put him on the spot, but he might have some ideas on that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that's an important topic that we could definitely.
Is this meant to be a developers conference or a users conference?
It's a developers conference. It's about the development of the immersive web.
That's not so what about everybody yelling about NFTs and trying to make money selling models of cute rubber hats? Would that be developer, or is that an artist, or is that just some creative kid in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had it earlier. We had a discussion about how the relationship would exist between the things like blockchain and NFTs and distributed identification.
I guess I'm trying to be more about, is this SIGGRAPH or Comic-Con?
It's more like SIGGRAPH.
SIGGRAPH.
Yes.
It's more like
SIGGRAPH. Maybe a little bit more like Comic-Con too.
So Ben, I know you had a few comments to make, and we also would like to give Julie an opportunity to share some feedback, both members of our production team. And before they comment, I want to acknowledge everything that they've been doing behind the scenes to keep things running. And by the way, if you have not been to the website yet that Ben has built, that is featured the Polys and the WebXR Developer Summit, I'm going to put the link here in the chat, but it's a really, really cool website. And so Ben, please.
I just wanted to, before Julie goes, I wanted to follow on what Larry said. And before that, I want to thank everybody for being here. The team that put this together, I want to thank everybody involved. But the prevailing question during this is sort of development versus content and what the substance of the summit is going to be. And that's the purpose of the summit is for us to have content people and developers talking to each other, because we need both. If this tech stack is the chicken and the content is the egg. We have both the chicken and the egg, and we need more chickens and we need more eggs. So we need to have this conversation going on between. So we will definitely be hearing from content verticals during the type. We're going to have topics on entertainment, on education, and several other topics throughout the day. So we have a pretty well built out plan. And the reason that we held this summit today is for us to finish that, because we needed to hear from you first. So thank you, everybody who participated in this discussion. And I want to turn it over to Julie Smithson now. So Steve, could you unmute her? And thank you again, everyone.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everybody. I just thought I'd throw a female voice into this big pool here today. So, and just to acknowledge my counterpart, Karen Alexander is also on, and I think I saw a few other females. So obviously trying to grow this community from a gender basis is also a big mission here. But what I wanted to share with you, one of my roles at Metaverse is producing and these projects that I'm building in WebXR for our clients. So to answer your question, Corey, I've been trying to build out what does that story arc look like that the clients can understand what the output is going to be, because they don't really know how that's going to happen. And to be honest, I wasn't even sure either. So, building the plane as you fly, that's certainly a big thing. But in the bigger education side of things, going back to that technical aspect, clients don't even understand how the weight of 3D assets in a space and then what that performance is like. So I think, knowing what boundaries we have, when producing WebXR, on specific devices, and, what can be included in that experience that fits into your tiny mobile device, as opposed to, a virtual room that you're in, and those kind of comparisons, that to me would be very helpful as well. But also, being able to produce that type of documentation that could be publicly shared so everybody can learn, what are the walls, where are those garden walls that we, once you go beyond those, is the performance is affected. So that technical know-how, maybe starting off the entire conference, just like that question that we put up today is, how do we explain WebXR right now to make sure that we all leave that summit with the right context that we can share in our communities, and also what kind of tools can we put together that will help build that technical know-how about how these experiences can be deployed with the right performance in the background. So anyways, thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. We've got some great feedback from everybody, and proud to be part of this team. Reach out, love to connect with everybody, and we'll see you guys on the 25th. Back over to you, Trevor.
Okay. I wonder how that happened. Man, everything was going so flawlessly too. Let me see here. Is that going to work, Trevor?
Yes, that worked. Thank you. I think I think I got caught up in the group mute.
All right. Yep. Sorry, please.
One thing I wanted to give Karen an opportunity, if she is, I see she's on the call, but no video, but if she wants to come on, I think that she wants to, she has an announcement.
Yes, well, as Julie noted, there are very few women on the call and joining in on the discussion. And Julie and I lead a group called XR Women that meets every Wednesday on the Immersive Learning Research Network's campus in Virbela. We're an initiative of iLearn. And we would love to work with any of you on connecting you with women working in and with XR to help get better representation for them in these spaces. Yeah, we'd love to have some input from you on ways that you can help us and maybe help women improve their skills or learn more things, but also so that you can connect with the women who are already skilled and working in these areas, but aren't really in these sorts of conversations. So please reach out to one of us. We'd love to hear from you.
Great. I think we're wrapping up for the day. So yeah, I want to reiterate thanks for the team that's working behind the scene. Karen, Julie, Ben, Steve for being our excellent Zoom moderator. I think Sophia is around here too. And so I'm the face that's talking the most, but I'm definitely not the person doing most of the work. So I really appreciate everybody behind the scenes making this come together smoothly and as nice as it has. And I want to thank everybody who showed up to talk. We got a lot of great topics that definitely are going to change the way we think about the schedule and how we put it together. I think this is excellent. Yeah, having just a couple of people in a room choosing is not a great way to do this. So I really appreciate your help. And you can always reach out to any of us. I know that my DMs on Twitter are open. The WebXR Awards has a Twitter account that you can chat at if you want to talk to the group as a whole. Yeah, and then of course, I look forward to the day of the summit and seeing what we can create together.
And I would like to thank first Steve Lewis for manning the scenes behind Zoom there. I'd like to thank Karen Alexander and Julie Smithson, who were also running the Slido and moderating. And of course, everybody give it up for our host, Trevor Flowers. Great job. Thank you, Trevor. All right.
My pleasure.
Way to go, Trevor.
Okay. Last word goes to you, Trevor, and we'll see you all on the 25th.
Yeah, let's make this happen. Stay open, everybody.
Well done, everyone. Take care.
Thank you all for coming. Have a
Thanks,
great
everyone.
afternoon.
Happy Sunday. See you on May 25th.
Great to see everybody.
That was fun.
Awesome. All right, gang. I'm going to hang tight here on Zoom. We'll kind of watch everybody depart here. And I'm going to clear out my back audio channel.
All of my social channels are just lit up with red dots telling me stuff. So
Awesome.
man, I appreciate your work keeping yeah. Oh, Ben,
We've got you on a double mount.
I'm going to shut off the live stream. Thank you for everybody watching in the multi-metaverse.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes. Bye-bye, everybody.